Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So every January 1st of every new year, you can pretty much be assured that there's some type of new gun control that the people of this country are going to have to endure. There is one state in particular, however, that is about to see some pretty massive changes. Changes that can have people waiting 40, 50, 60 days before they even get their transfer. So we're going to be talking about a couple new laws in one particular state that are taking effect January 1st that are going to absolutely change everything. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here. So there are very few states in this country that have seen a more rapid decline in their Second Amendment rights than Washington State. Over the past year, the Washington State Legislature and the governor's office just absolutely obliterated the Second Amendment with new bans, restrictions, and regulations. But not all of those bans or regulations have actually taken effect yet. As a matter of fact, we're set to see several take effect on January 1st of 2024. So let's talk about what people in Washington State can expect to see and how this is such a massive infringement on their constitutionally protected right. Now, all of this stems from Washington's HB 1143, which was a pretty big bill. It encompassed quite a bit, everything from background checks to waiting periods, training requirements, permits, applications. Now, thankfully, the bill that was passed and then signed by the governor was significantly smaller in scope than the original bill that was introduced, but still, it's pretty bad. So let's go ahead and talk about the first thing that's going to be taking effect come January 1st of 2024. The first thing that's going to be taking place January 1st, 2024, let's say you walk into a shop and you want to get yourself that new Freedom Seed Slinger that you saw on the wall. Well, you're not even going to be able to start the process. You're not going to be able to do the background check or anything until you have completed a state-mandated, state-controlled, and state-regulated training course. You have to have a certificate of completion from that training course from somebody who is certified by the state to give that training course before you can even apply at that shop. So you're going to have to sit there. You're going to have to probably pay money for it, right? That's going to come out of your own pocket. Listen to a bunch of stuff that you probably already know in order to get a certificate from the state to be able to practice your constitutionally protected right. Now, once you have that, then you can go through and you can start the whole process. Well, here's the other thing about that whole process. In the way that things currently are, I guess you could say, at least for the next few days, you would fill out your 4473 and it would go through the NICS system. You would do the standard background check as normal, right? And if it was a semi-automatic, you'd probably have a little bit of a waiting period. If it was a bolt action, they would just wait to get the reply and you'd take it right away. But now it's going to go, instead of just doing the NICS system, it's going to go to the state police who are going to conduct their own background check on you, which is going to be like a state background check. And by the way, when you do your application, you fill out the application, all that process before it goes to the state police, you're also authorizing them to be able to check your medical records and stuff should they determine that they need further investigation into you. So it's going to go to the state police. The state police are going to run their own state dealio, and then they're going to also run it through the NICS system. So basically, you're going to get like 2 in-depth background checks on you when you fill out that form at your local shop. So that's going to be something new. Now, on top of that, in the state as it stands right now, like I said before, if you were to get yourself a bolt or a pump or a brake or lever action, something like that, there's not really a waiting period, right? I mean, the period of waiting is how long does it take for the thing to come back. Well, now under this new bill or this new law, what's going to happen is every firearm in the state is going to be required to have at least a minimum 10-day waiting period. Now, that's not a 10-day waiting period to see if things, the background check and everything can come back within those 10 days. No, it means if the background check comes back the same day and you're clear, the state police have proven that you're clear, the NICS check comes back and says that you're not a prohibited person, it doesn't matter. You still have 9 more days to wait before you can go in there and get it. It's like the state's, so-called cool-off period, similar to what they have in California. And in California, in most cases, you really have to wait till the 11th day because the shop won't release it to you until it's exactly, a minute after the time that's on the paperwork that was submitted and so forth. And so sometimes these shops, just to be safe, won't release it until the 11th day. But unfortunately, if let's say that it takes longer for your checks to come back, so let's say 10 days has passed, right? Your check still hasn't come back yet. Well, in other states that have something similar to this, there's a required time period where the shop can actually give it to you legally under state law. They can give it to you because there's been some type of delay. It doesn't mean that you're disqualified, but there's been a delay, and so they can release it to you. But not in Washington state. In Washington state, they've determined that, guess what? You're going to wait until they're done. And if that means you're going to wait 30, 40, 50, 60, up to 90 days later for them to get everything that they need before they figure that they can release it to you, then that's what they're going to make you do. How friggin' unconstitutional is that? I mean, if I have to wait 5 minutes, a right delayed is still a right denied. That's the way that I feel about it. Me standing there, me having to fill out any paperwork whatsoever, to me is unconstitutional. But then even just waiting there for, let's say, 10 minutes for the guy to go in the back to make a phone call, check the NIC system or whatever, that 5 minutes is already too much of a delay when it comes to your rights. I shouldn't have to, if I'm going to say something, right, I shouldn't have to wait for a background check or wait for some type of delay before I can actually say it. I have freedom of speech. The Second Amendment is not a second-class right, and therefore there shouldn't be any waits or delays for me to be able to practice it, but that's what they're doing. So we have waiting periods that can extend a ridiculous amount of time. There's going to be new training classes that are going to be implemented, so you're going to have that certificate of completion. There's just going to be so much going on come January 1st in Washington that it's really like that right doesn't exist anymore. For one, there is no other right that is listed in our Bill of Rights that makes you go through any type of classroom training before you're allowed to practice it. These are rights that we had prior to the existence of the Constitution, but the Constitution is supposed to be there to protect us from things like this. And if people aren't going to step up and do something about it, then what's that for, right? These are unconstitutional laws, but that's what's going to be in place and enforced in the state of Washington. And if these FFLs want to keep their licenses, stay open, stay in business, well, I guarantee you that they are going to be complying. Whether you want to comply or not is totally up to you. I know where I stand on the matter. But FFLs, they're not going to want to lose their livelihood, so I guarantee you they're going to comply with all of these new things that are coming up. So just be aware of that. I'll actually put a link to 1143 down below so you can read it for yourself and you can see everything that's in it. But it's pretty astonishing to me that states are allowed to do this with no immediate injunction placed on the enforcement of this stuff by some type of judge, because we have activist judges. But regardless, I wanted to make you guys aware of that, just given the fact that we're only a few days away now. So with only a few days left, you might want to think about what you need prior to that date. You know, especially for somebody who's just looking for that bolt or break, you might want to consider that before that wait period hits. Anyway, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and we'll be back to talk about the next one because there are so many more. Thanks again. Have a good one.